Hi everyone, my name is Hannah Woodruff and I am the current editorial intern at Pretty Owl Poetry. The following video is a recording of a virtual poetry reading that Pretty Owl Poetry hosted with White Whale Bookstore on Thursday, April 23rd in honor of National Poetry Month. Our readers tonight feature Knickerbocker, Malcolm Friend, Charlie Lefever, and Lucia LoTempio. All of these talented poets were published in issue 24 of Pretty Owl Poetry, which can be found online in our archives at prettyowlpoetry.com. We are so glad that these poets agreed to read for us, reminding us of the importance of art in bringing us together and sustaining us during times of great difficulty. So, without further ado, I will introduce our readers in the order that they will be sharing. Knickerbocker is a writer and world wanderer from Sagerstown, Pennsylvania. She is the author of the chapbooks The Shedding Before the Swell from Dancing Girl Press 2018 and Next to Everything That Is Breakable from Fishing Line Press 2017. Her poetry and essays appeared in or are forthcoming in Construction, Long Ridge Review, Pittsburgh Poetry Review, Upagus, Broad River Review, and the anthology Voices from the Attic, among others. Knickerbocker lives in Pittsburgh, where she works at Carnegie Mellon University, co-curates the Mad Fridays reading series, and is a proud member of the Mad Women in the Attic at Carlow University. You can find her online at www.karenknickerbocker.com. Malcolm Friend is a poet originally from the Rainier Beach neighborhood of Seattle, Washington. He received his BA from Vanderbilt University and his MFA from the University of Pittsburgh. He is the author of the chapbook Mixed Kid Mixtape from Glass Poetry 2017 and the full-length collection Our Bruises Kept Singing Purple from Inlandia Books 2018, selected by Cynthia Aru King as winner of the 2017 Hilary Gravendike Prize. Together with J.R. Mahong, he is a member of the Black Plantains, an Afro-Caribbean poetry collective. Charlie Lefever is a queer writer living in Pittsburgh. They focus primarily on spoken word, having won first prize at both the Steel City Slam and the Nasty Slam poetry contests. Their work, best described as creative nonfiction with a surrealist twist, is forthcoming in the Arlington Literary Journal. They also host a monthly reading at Bantha Tea Bar, which showcases local Pittsburgh talent. Lucia LoTempio is the author of Hot with the Bad Things from Alice James Books 2020. You can find her poems in Passages North, The Journal, TYPO, Quarterly West, as part of the Academy of American Poets Poem-a-Day series, and elsewhere. With Suzannah Russ Spaar, she co-authored the chapbook Undone in Scarlet from Tammy 2019. Lucia lives and writes in Pittsburgh. So, now that I've introduced all of our writers, I will now turn it over to Kara to begin our reading.
Hi everyone. First and foremost, I want to thank White Whale Bookstore and Pretty Owl Poetry for putting together this incredible evening. I'm so lucky to be reading with such amazing writers and so grateful to be in this space with you guys. So thank you to all of you that are logging on and listening. I'm going to start with a couple poems from my first chapbook, Next to Everything That Is Breakable. And this first poem comes from, I guess 4 years ago now. I was told that I needed to get a pacemaker. So I underwent surgery on my heart to get that. And I was 25 at the time and healthy. And so it came as quite the shock to myself and to my family. And this poem came from that. It's called Beating, and it's after Diane Glancy. Beating. If they would have prescribed an easier pill to swallow than news that this device was necessary to keep me breathing. If they could have explained the eternity in 20 seconds of a heartbeat stopping. If they could have warned me that the first time wouldn't work and anesthesia would deliver me to the table again before seeing my family. If they could have prepared my mother before she saw my adult body naked in a tub, or me before feeling her hands help bathe, dress me. If they could have just said, never mind wearing a strapless wedding dress. Or written in the reports how wonderful it is that you're a runner, but you should probably find a new hobby now. If they could have diagnosed the symptoms of their words, it's a shame, you're so young. If they would have just realized more than this caged organ beats like hell inside me. If they would have just defined pacemaker as a parasite in a body I used to know. If you're asking why I'm leaving, because this row of brick houses ghosts with heads on backwards, because my skin sleeps under your nail beds, because there isn't a color red I've loved since the car crash, because even birds fly south, because without wings, your lips travel down just the same because I let you, because religion was the well-oiled machine of our bodies, because thoughts of a baby's open mouth, because I'm egg yolk, because I cannot imagine anything more breakable than me if I stay. The ledge. I was sitting on this godforsaken ledge as I do most days when you came to me, open as water, rocked me still with your breath because you understood what it felt like to be hunted and where to bottle hunger in the dark. Since you saw me drink for all the times it hurt to be beautiful, to keep retracing some wild vein of what was, because you knew nothing other than the angst of growing smaller. So you built back each word, told me my scars were road maps, red, straight to where you were headed. So this is the poem that was published in the winter issue of Pretty Owl Poetry. I worked for the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation for 3 summers, and it was quite the experience, but if nothing else, at least I got this poem. So this is called Neon Woman. Sometimes I miss those 5 a.m. wake-ups, smell of sunshine gasoline on hot asphalt, midnight oil splattered on tan gloves. I think of those men, their bronzed biceps from their t-shirt sleeves down, and my place shotgun in the truck, JD eating gas station hot dogs, Todd veering across the yellow line over the college girls at Allegheny, how Russ tried to get me to chew. I wore that hard hat, sweat pooling in my sports bra, chasing the lines on their leathered faces. Wondered if there was more to this story than the grip of the shovel, swift kiss of the blade as it slices into the willing earth, dirt caking the steel toe boots. Everything hot, everything weathered. I think these men are my father's age, but I know they see me. My blue jean hips, blonde ponytail, breasts small but eager. I felt it like the rev of that engine. There will always be an emptying parking lot, laundry piling, drive-through orders, a working back breaking into the day. There will always be a man wiping sweat from his brow, pretending not to notice the neon woman, and the woman never admitting it, some out-of-line sunfire attraction that burns a hole in our best intentions. So with it being Earth Day yesterday, and of course being in the midst of this bizarre situation that we're all in, this pandemic, and seeing the effects of climate change, I thought this poem was appropriate. It's called Ravage. I know Earth is a woman even without calling her Mother Nature, because we form borders like institutional barriers, keep building walls instead of bridges, only so we can look up her skirt as she tries to climb them. Because she still breathes life back, season after season, even as we are planted here in a forest of wrong. Mostly, I know Earth is a woman because we ravage her to the core. Look how beautiful the embers glow just for us. Can't see, can't care, another piece of her gone missing. And I have two more poems. These are from my second chapbook, The Shedding Before the Swell. And this first poem is from my grandfather who passed away. Notes on Shadows. I think of mid-July sun, tracing with blue sidewalk chalk or lying on cool grass underneath apple blossoms in the backyard. I didn't think you, sunken into a hospital bed, oceans between us, the island of your body shrinking fast like the view of Singapore from my airplane window seat. The lights faded out into deep velvet night with your last breath of air. Did you know then? Or was time still too far to touch? I should have been there. I could have filled the spaces between your knuckled fingers before they lost warmth, just out of reach in the darkness. Now Grandma is your shadow, trapped in between. She moves through the halls, slow, silent, just trying to remember what the light felt like. And this is my last poem. Thank you guys again so much. This is how. Begin with the body whole. Take the heavy head, its ever-thinning hair, kiss the clavicle bone. Find the heart, purple and all-knowing, pinch thigh, feel the pool of muscle, learn to love the give and take. Memorize the irises, know their color even when they sleep. Give the disease a name, don't dare say it out loud. Move past the sunken shoulders, the bruised flesh like a rotting peach on the kitchen windowsill. Mark each breath, circle the vein. This is how you know it will end. Fingernails dug into the ocean of a body, hands still holding on until the calendars quit.
Author who is not me, as a way to make sure that you hear at least one good poem come out of my mouth. And a couple days ago, my National Poetry Month recommendations were up for White Whale. So I'm going to read a poem from one of those recommendations, Native Guard by Natasha Trethewey. And the poem I'm going to read is titled South. It starts with an epigraph. Homo sapiens is the only species to suffer psychological exile. E.O. Wilson. I return to a stand of pines, bone-thin phalanx flanking the roadside, tangle of understory, a dialectic of dark and light, magnolias blossoming like afterthought, each flower a surrender, white flags draped among the branches. I return to Land's End, the swath of coast clear-cut and buried in sand, mangrove, live oak, gulfweed raised and replaced by thin palms, palmettos, symbols of victory or defiance, over and over marking this vanquished land. I return to a field of cotton, hallowed ground, a slave legend goes, each bowl holding the ghosts of generations, those who measured their days by the heft of sacks and lengths of rows, whose sweat flecked the cotton plants still sewn into our clothes. I returned to a country battlefield where colored troops fought and died. Port Hudson, where their bodies swelled and blackened beneath the sun. Unburied until Earth's green sheet pulled over them. Unmarked by any headstones. Where the roads, buildings, and monuments are named to honor the Confederacy. Where that old flag still hangs. I returned to Mississippi, state that made a crime of me, mulatto, half-breed, native in my native land. This place, they'll bury me. All right, no more stalling. So I'm going to read one poem from my chapbook mixtape before reading a couple of poems from the full length, then some newer stuff, and then going back to the full length. Afro-Seattleite fragment number 17, Love Letter to Macklemore, after Marcus Wicker. Your music saved a shy Black boy from conversation. When I think of you, it's usually morning carpools, the absence of conversation between me and Kevin, how I kept wishing for the hour-long bus rides because I could lean against the window, no expectation to talk to anyone. I didn't really want to listen to you. You were Tupac minus Black Panther parents. Snoop Dogg raised in Capitol Hill. At some point, you seduced me. Something about a white boy owning his privilege and condemning our city racist eased the hours I spent in your Capitol Hill. And Kevin was Filipino, so that meant something, right? I rocked to white privilege and claiming the city, called them 206 anthems in college. I could unfeel Smitty and Mark's rough hands in my hair. All those white boys who buried their fingers in my scalp, those shovels digging into me, thinking they'd find something I was hiding, claiming me, reminding me no space was mine, not even this body, always trying to unnap my roots, these clumps of hair forming fists on my head, this body curling into fist on the bus back to the South End. I never imagined you as guilty, mistook your attempts at penance for confessions of love and threw myself at you. And isn't that your guilt earning my love? Isn't that the beauty of seduction? Okay, all right, so yeah, let's do one from Our Bruises Kept Singing Purple, and then we'll move to some new stuff for a second. Afro-Seattleite fragment number 6, Prayer in the Mode of Sir Mix-a-Lot's Posse on Broadway, or South End Kid returns to Capitol Hill 6 years after graduating high school. Dear Heavenly Father, let no sucker cruise try to test me today. These muscles are still tense from crossing my arms all those years ago when I wanted to swing them. Don't know when they might rubber band snap, sting the latest offender. Don't know when this tongue might bust my teeth cursing someone out. Shrapnel the stray bits in the listener's skull after years of saying nothing to insults of, your hair feels like steel wool, and T. Hunt saying, I don't swim in the chocolate river, when he told me he wasn't attracted to black girls, and folks always placing the Beatles above Stevie Wonder. Have they ever listened to songs in the key of life? Dear Heavenly Father, in the 6 years since graduation, I've only ventured past Dick's 2 or 3 times. Ain't got no posse to back me up if shit goes sideways. I still remember my first day, how my skeleton tried to crawl out my skin on the bus when Broadway turned into 10th. Almost made its way past my lips, but yo-yoed back as the bus screeched to a stop on Miller. How I told myself it was first day nerves. How I still do, even though they lingered past the second day, and the second year, and the last day of class. These bones one step closer to abandoning this skin every day. How I prayed no one would test me. Ask, so where do you live? Dear Heavenly Father, I still call the way my hands tremble and tense up. Prayer. All right, this is usually the point in which I would ask if it's okay for me to read some new shit, but y'all can't say anything, so I guess it is. All right, and this first one is super, super, super new. Like just wrote it today, so if it sucks, that's why. Nocturne, downtown to West Seattle, November 15th, 2019. If I'm being honest, I've always preferred the bus at night. Something about dark skies and fluorescent lights turning the city obsidian, about only being able to focus on the steady grind of public transit gears pushing wheels. One thing I have always been able to trust. If I'm being honest, there isn't much difference between a late fall Seattle morning and a late fall Seattle night. City dark, air wet with the mist that feeds the moss. If I'm being honest, I am most me struggling not to fall asleep on a bus, body packed into a seat, joints stacked one on top of another despite every effort to stretch, head bouncing off the window every few minutes. If I'm being honest, I only half like these new buses. Miss the days when niggas used to scratch graffiti into a polycarbonate glazing. If I'm being honest, I'm my dad's child. Will always take comfort over new shit, and it's not that I'm against this changing city, just that all the shit changing is pushing me and mine away. If I'm being honest, I miss the 106, and damn sure miss the 7. I am on a bus not headed to Rainier Beach, and I'm struggling to see the city around it. I am struggling for any well-lit stop to map my body on this route. I am struggling to map my body in this city. If I'm being honest, I'm struggling to be anything more than a body that can be swallowed into the night. Solemn Seattle Obad, after Cameron Barnett. There are houses drowning every night here. What a sin to let the waves swallow them. How I am haunted by rooftops poking out above the water's surface. These reverse skyscrapers bubbling breath in the CD. Fish bones scattered over the hills of Columbia City, Mount Baker, Rainier Beach. Everything is always changing here. A new family pushed out every night on Puget Sound. A new skyline drifting in before the sun can note their absence. I come back and barely recognize the city in front of me. Spend my time on metro buses whose routes have shifted so many times I can no longer trace them on maps. Ride through streets where the businesses I knew are ghosts. Wonder what won't be here the next time I am. Once I named love a burger shared at my favorite soul food joint. Now I wonder how to define it in this city. Wonder if there's anything left for me to love. The names of every neighborhood I've loved serve as nothing more than a tombstone now. This city will wash away all you've ever known with the rain. My heart is a cemetery of unmarked graves. I leave flowers by every single one to make sure all the ghosts are fed. There isn't much left of me that isn't haunted. Some days I still walk the southernmost hills of the city. Look northward and see the steel buildings poking out above the trees. Remember waiting for the bus every morning in high school. Surviving the gray and slush of winter to see all those spring mornings. The sun rising to the east out of Lake Washington. Burning the tips of the evergreens lining the city's hills. Finally something that wouldn't drown. All right. Okay, I've got just a couple more and gonna try to end on somewhat of a joyful note. Hella. Tell me how we took this from the Bay. How Seattle has always aspired to San Francisco. How us South End kids snatch the bass in our voices and bump in our bravado straight off some Oakland speakers. And I'll tell you, yeah. Admit to the time in college my older sister apologized to my Texas-born girlfriend for all the E40 and Too Short on her playlist as she drove us through Nashville. Tell you how in middle school we used to get hyphy in the school parking lot / basketball court. Tell you how the jagged concrete used to tear up our hands and knees diving for loose balls. About the pebbles I would brush from my bleeding skin, and then tell you to respect our swag. How we took that shit and flipped it to our own. How as I stood in the midst of flailing limbs, all I could think was, this is home. How all I could think was, fuck yeah, I'm a child of this thrashing tongue. Okay. Let's just end it with the last poem from our bruises. Afro-Seattleite fragment number 18. When I found out Cold-Hearted in Cloud City is a love letter to the South End. Maybe it started like anything. Joke, homeboys chilling, listening to Black Han Solo. Why not smoke out that swag, these clouds, this city? It's about time the town learned what it meant for us to have that South stuck rooted in our guts. It goes back to boyhood, before I started thinking coffin or escape, when I stole peanut butter cups from the corner store with Jonas. One of us always played distraction, asking how much Choco tacos cost while the other stuffed pockets and our fingers tracked the evidence. Goes back to fake fights with Brandon that turned into real fights. The time he took the Game Boy from my sister and I tackled him. Decided he wanted no one to fuck with no more. As we wiped our bloodied noses and elbows, and maybe it was just our bruised egos, but we claimed it was proof we real and here and alive. I'm in college, bumping Carbonite Flow in my dorm room on full blast. Don't care if my roommate walks in. First white boy I ever lived with once asked me if I had to do my hair so loud as I picked out my fro, and now I see the impulse to shout "Selfin" over phaser backbeat. Remember cutting that South out my mouth to survive in high school? Deciding I would never get mad or say nigga around all those white folks, and now I almost miss the reek of weed on the 7. Proof I was real and here and alive. That's why I needed this. Kings deeming love poem not enough, responding with love poem. My first summer back from school, I stood by Lake Washington, threw rocks in the blue and waited for the echo to throw them back at me. Shouted, "Selfin," and waited for the echo to shout it back at me. Thought maybe echo was more than echo. Waited for the South End to say I love you back at me. All right. Thanks, y'all. That's it for me. Turn it over to Charlie now.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is odd. Talking to an empty room, but I know that you're all there in spirit. I can feel you all. Welcome to my living room. This is a tapestry of Olympic National Park in Washington, which is where I lived previously. And I got the tapestry to remind myself that the trees are still there and the mountains are still there, even if I can't see them all the time. And it's been a especially good reminder recently, as we're all, stuck at home. Good reminder that there's something else out there besides my apartment and the grocery store. So I wanted to start off with a poem that is sort of all about my travels, and particularly my travels with one of my favorite people to travel with. We met in Idaho, and since then have been we traveled a lot together. We both live in Pittsburgh now, but we still travel, or we did when it was safe to. So this poem is called "What the Country Taught Us." In Idaho, we learned how to speak to the mountains, to the streams, to each other. In California, we learned how to be sweet, the Pacific Ocean crooning softly as it predicted our future, back and forth, back and forth. In Washington, we learned how to climb over the rocky peaks and dark crevices of unknown territory as we scrambled to reach solid ground. In Arizona, we learned how to watch the sunset, the pinks and oranges outlining the spikes on the cactuses, hard and soft on top of each other as far as the eye can see. In New York, we learned how to listen, the crunching of a car bumper into a concrete pole sending vibrations through the universe and into our bodies. In Virginia, we learned how to come back to ourselves, a reminder that the language of the mountains and the streams never left us at all. In North Carolina, we learned how to play, the sand leaving small red burns on our bodies, the sun kissing us all over and coaxing us to shed our old skin. In Kentucky, we learned how to cope, leaving the broken things behind and packing a bag of only what we need, a toothbrush and each other. In Pennsylvania, we learned how to be bored, how to be angry, how to be vulnerable, how to be loved. So this is my first virtual reading. I mentioned at the beginning of the show, when all the writers were collecting together, that living in this kind of like semi-virtual world where we don't actually have like much personal interaction anymore is like definitely one of my like worst dystopian futures that I think could happen. You know, on that note, I feel very like lucky and privileged and you know, settled in a lot of ways. But not getting those interactions, not getting to see everyone, hear everyone, it's a huge bummer. I started performing initially because I decided I was going to write a book about a year and a half ago, and got pretty far before I was like, wow, this is the most delayed gratification thing I have ever tried to do. And I want people to, you know, sort of see me sooner than this book, because I didn't have an agent, or, you know, I didn't know if it was going to go anywhere. You're just sort of like writing in your room and hoping eventually it'll get somewhere. So I started doing poetry slams, which are pretty much the exact opposite, because you get audience feedback immediately, sometimes with numbers attached to it. Making poets compete is one of the most weird and fucked up games we can play with each other, but it's weirdly addicting. But so that project that I started initially moved into something else, but I do have a book coming out soon, sometime post Corona. That'll be out, which I'm really excited about. It'll be my first book, a collection of prose and poetry. I don't stick very well to one genre. Boxes and labels and all those things you're trying to get me to do. So I'm very excited about that. And to sort of tide me over while everything is virtual, I am just selling some of my zines, some of my older zines. $5. You can just Venmo me and send me your information, and I'll get that to you, which would be very cool. And if I run out, because I don't have too many copies left, then I will just send you a handwritten poem instead, which will be really cool. So kind of, I'm not going to read the piece that was in the Pretty Owl magazine. I like that piece a lot. I'm very excited that they chose it. But it is it's sad. It sort of leaves you pretty sad. And I'd been trying to incorporate some more comedy into my work for a while now, and I feel like especially right now, it's like great to keep our spirits up. But it's on their website, and like I said, I think it's a great piece, so I would still recommend checking that out. But I'm going to read you a piece called The Big Speech, which is something that I wrote for a basement show in December. So it references the winter, and it also references the solstice, because it was the winter solstice right around the time that the show was. And it is my take on the big rom-com profession speech that I feel like very few have ever gotten correct yet. So this is my my take on it. And if you want to set the scene, we are outside at night under a street lamp, and me and my queer friend just had a great day together, and I'm ready to tell them how I feel. I can't keep it in anymore. So here it is, the big speech. Wait, please, just wait a minute. I want to be with you. I don't want to be in this in-between space anymore. I promise you, I'm not afraid to take you on. I don't care that you're so forgetful that you left the back door open and your 2 cats' peanut butter and jelly got out. And I don't care that you got drunk and spent $300 on Selena Gomez merchandise off of eBay. I love Selena Gomez. And I love you. Look, I know it's scary. I know loving someone is scary. Being loved is scary, but it's also amazing. I promise. Let me show you. Look, it's almost the solstice and I couldn't keep this to myself anymore. I want to spend the horrible dreariness of February listening to you talk about your day and making you those disgusting bologna and pickle sandwiches that I know you love, and sitting next to you on the couch watching The West Wing and wearing matching extra large t-shirts with Selena Gomez's disembodied head on them. I want to do that. I want to be with you. What do you say? Do this with me? This is where you all clap and laugh, and you know, I can hear you and I'm like, woo, this is so good. Okay, I have one more piece for you. So I don't have anything that's particularly new right now, because I have transitioned from when I was doing a lot of poetry slams and performances, and you know, as my bio mentioned, I run a monthly reading called the Bantha readings, which hopefully will be back in June. I can keep everybody updated on that. I'm sure everyone will just know if things are open or not. But so when I was doing that and we were performing, I was really generating a lot of new things because I was going to these slams and these readings so regularly that I just really felt like I needed to like generate a lot of new work. And it was also a lot of fun to kind of push myself in that way and see like, okay, what new poems can I get out, and you know, what can I write about? But recently I have shifted and am working on a screenplay, because that is the sort of ultimate hope and goal, is to write for television, hence the big speech I just gave. So this is also an older piece, and is similar to, hopefully it will bring you some peace and some hope right now, which is also very similar to, I think, being a working artist, because there's so much uncertainty and it can really change day to day. And I know that a lot of the artists that I know and work with are really struggling right now, not only just from the performance aspect, but you know, lots of income. And as one of my favorite artists said, there is a reason why some of us get up on stage in front of crowds. You know, it really, it definitely fills me in a very specific way that I miss very dearly. But this is an older poem where I was facing a lot of rejection in art. You know, that's just sort of the game of it. and just kind of trying to keep my chin up, and then also, you know, about other sort of my personal life, and just be like, okay, we're all gonna get through this. So this is my last piece. Thank you very much for listening to me. No one's here to stop me, or I can't read any cues from anyone, so it feels very similar to kind of being an artist in general, and like doing most of your work just like in your living room, being like, does anybody care that I'm doing this? Like, is throwing it out there, you know. I always described it as just like tossing papers into the wind. Just like, where is this even going? Okay, this is my last piece, like I said. Thank you to everyone, Pretty Owl and White Whale, for putting this together. I miss you all so much, like just so much. I can't wait to see you all again and be in sweaty dance clubs with you and stare at you from behind a microphone. I'm just so excited for that. So this piece is called Tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the day that the email finally appears in my inbox. The email that will tell me I've won the competition. Please come and collect your sizable monetary prize, as well as the published copies of your work. Signed, Random House Publishers. Tomorrow will be the day that I nonchalantly open Tinder on my phone and look out from an adorable picture will be the woman of my dreams. I'll quickly skim through her profile, and her quick wit and sharp answers will make me laugh out loud. I'll send her an equally witty message, and when she replies, her response will take me off guard in a good way. And 3 texts later, we'll have our first date planned. Tomorrow, I'll sit down to write a grocery list, and instead the most profound piece of writing penned in the last 20 years will spill out of the ends of my fingers, the pages filling as I struggle to keep up with my own genius, every line more beautiful and eloquent than the one before it. Finally, I'll look up to realize the sun has set, and I'll lean back in my chair, exhausted and elated. Tomorrow, I'll wake up to find that my body has transformed overnight. I'll comb my fingers through my thick, full beard and flex my broad shoulders in the mirror. I'll lift up my hand and notice that my fingers brush the ceiling. I'll say my name out loud, and the bravado of my voice will match the one in my head. Tomorrow is going to be great. And for today I'll read my rejection emails carefully and see if it makes sense for me to send them more work in the future. Today, I'll spend the evening with myself, making dinner and laying on the floor with my cats. Today, I'll just enjoy writing this poem while I sit outside and listen to the slight buzz of a bee enjoying the flowers next to me. Today, I'll look at myself in the mirror and admire my slender shoulders, my shaped eyebrows. I'll say my name out loud and listen to the way my voice rises at the end, as if the word is leaving my mouth like a small bird taking flight. Tomorrow, all my dreams will come true. But today I'm doing just fine. Thank you. This is, yes, the applause. Oh my gosh, so much. That is all for me. Thank you so much for being here and for listening. I will send some information into the chat if you would like to either send a donation or send off for one of my zines. Just real quickly, let me show them to you. Okay, so these are the two that I have. This one is about all the other words. I'm trans, by the way. This is one about all the other words that start with trans as a prefix, and they're all really cool, sweet words. And this one is like a little adventure book about being a stick figure. Again, these are like a year and a half old, so they're more like memorabilia than, you know, once my book comes out, then we'll be more updated. $5 each, or you can send a donation, and I will put the Venmo information into the chat, and probably also my email if anyone wants to email me, either just to follow up or to send me their information so I can get them the zine. Thank you so much, and I will pass it along.
Hi everyone, my name's Lucia LoTempio. Thank you all so much for being here virtually and sticking around to the end. Thank you so much to Pretty Owl for hosting, and to White Whale for hosting as well. I'm really excited to be here. And yeah, like Anna said at the top, I'm going to be teaching a 3-hour masterclass this Saturday, April 25th, just an afternoon class. We're going to talk about persona and the personal, and it should be really fun, hopefully interesting, and I hope you guys can check it out and will join me. So yeah, like Anna said, all the information I think can be found on their Eventbrite page, but also, you know, Facebook, Twitter, the usual suspects. So yeah, I'm gonna read a little bit from my book. It's kind of crazy that I am holding it for you all. This is my first time like reading from the actual book. So I'm excited to be doing it here. So yeah, it comes out officially on May 12th. So you can order it through White Whale. And that's actually my most recommended way to get it, is through White Whale's bookshop page. So yeah, I'm gonna read from it. So something to note about the book, I use like a physical image to replace somebody's name within the book, so like a physical circle. And so it usually when I'm in readings and, you know, I can see the whole audience, I have everyone clap or do something to signify like that image. And I'm gonna try something kind of strange. I don't know if it's gonna work, but I guess we'll find out. If it's weird, I'll just stop. But I thought instead of having everyone clap, or instead of replacing it, I would cut my video and then uncut it, I guess. So we'll try it. If it's weird, then I'll stop. But yeah, let's see. Okay, so the book is called Hot with the Bad Things. And I'm just gonna read an excerpt through. Okay. The man said, oh, I think everyone tried to unmute me at once. Thank you. Okay, so Hot with the Bad Things, I'm gonna read an excerpt. Here we go. The man says, alone on a bus. That's how a horror movie starts. But it feels more imaginable, tomorrow rather than on a screen. I should be a singed cauterization, removal to pin down this red. Hiding behind the poem is always another poem, and in that one, less blood, or red more seeable and deserved. I don't know what I deserve anymore, and it's hard to know when everyone tells me I love myself, and I do, really. My friend got on the bus and the driver pleaded, "Oh honey, I'd love to see your face." She tells me this belongs in a poem, but I don't think here is what she meant. The man on TV said, "Violence requires no imagination. Anyone can shoot a gun. But if the end of the barrel is the furthest distance he could imagine, I'm just not sure. Listen, if nothing goes to plan, imagine it as bad as possible." I kept waking after the moment of plunge. Smell thick, warm, humid, dark. A knife to raise on the floor, a quick reach. It was after the flood of posts. The man murdered the girl and her new lover. I was just a few months gone. I posted a picture too. A sunset posing as sunrise. Red hearts like playing cards. As if I could play this mirror game. As if she could light through me. As if I'm at the quiet, swirling center. Here it opens with a metal snap. It is teeth put in a swinging hand. Puncture, closeness. In any case, some blood moves in something. If telling a story is the mark of victory, what does that make me? Maybe power is like language, hard to nail down and relentless, smiling at a man who is waving to someone behind you. When I write about the girl, I don't know a way that isn't obliteration. The heart is flexible, pure creamed flesh, if it fleshed out all its blood, as if I could touch her, and then there's so many things a touch can be. Okay. Why is there a delicious dough under all these poems? So sweet and glowing, like the blue fire of a dead star too far away to even fathom. Gorgeous as a knife, sponged into sugar-dusted yellow cake. Once, after raped you, he did not call for 3 days, so you left a litany of messages brimming with apology. Sometimes I am so scared. I think if I were to be raped again, at least it would have the suggestion of an ending. Once, hit you so hard you could not hear for hours, and when he asked why he did it, you knew. I am an accumulation of once. I refuse to look away. Had this fantasy where I was with someone else. He'd kill them, lots of blood, then rape me in revenge. For what? For touch? There are so many things I could touch, and my hands are this big, still growing. But I laid out on campus. Concrete and ash anointed my bare back. But it was the August heat, thunder. But I don't want this to just be. Held me by the corners of my mouth, made me a fucked up smile, but I wanted it. But I was August heat thunder. I wanted it. I told him I wanted it. But I walked to the gas station for something to fry up. I told him I wanted that. But I wanted him to prop the door open. Okay. Once, tied your arms and legs to your throat, demanding you crawl because he made you immobile. I think a person can be there without being there. You used to cry so much, wipe snot and cold tears on the skirts of little dresses. It's overwrought to say, but true. Can I make you sorry? Make you say you would be better if you knew what I know now. What do I even know now? I'm full of fear. I was once a hand that went from overripe berry to next, a knife that cut nothing thicker than cake. Say you were bloated with a place. Say you used to kick rock salt, rush from beds, prime for echo, shouting into the cleft of two walls. And as for apology, say it, say it. I want to hear you fucking say it. I'm just gonna read a few more. Small death, small shame. Photograph of a small room emptied. Portrait of women killing Orpheus, body small in death, in pieces. I did not find pleasure in that. A small death. Do you feel shame when you are dead? Something always lives on, small. When you are dead, know this hand is yours. No one comes to claim it. Told me a rape is a small death. Something still lives, a blasphemous love for myself, and not dead or small. There is nothing triumphant about red rising like next day. Once I sat in an atrium while a man tuned a piano. The notes were not discordant, but patiently organized into melody. My mother told me I hate men. I loved a man, and he was kind to me. That was not a mistake. When I look up distraught, the examples babble on about women hysterical, screaming. Online, all these sentences with a man so distraught, he kills a woman, one he loves, one who is kind, and her voice or mine, a crackled throat. The mouth opens like it's just blunt entry. I want to have sex with what I want to become, says the poet. I think I should feel very broken down, very rotten. But I am open like the hull of a ship with stairs ascending. When I see a grease fire, it's a trash fire, it's a car engine fire, it's on the belly of a great lake. I'm always looking for solution, but an equation would be too elegant. Siri says, "Thank you for your feedback," when you call her naughty girl. I know I shouldn't be filling any cup to splash. When I say grease fire, I mean nothing else. I mean grease fire. I tell my lover to throw me on the bed and he refuses. What happens when you are hot with the bad things? When I was younger, I felt a tenderness that was uninterrupted. Now when I feel it coming on, I think I know where it started. When I open, I need to know who, or when my mouth opens, it's full of fire and still so hungry. Okay, I'm just gonna read two more. A man I know posted a documentary about any campus, #rewatching. When I watched that film, I was so mad. I already knew everything they told me. Who was that for? Who are these poems for? A hashtag has an edge. Lead me out, red exit neon, when the tacit applause comes. There are so many things did to me, and I don't want to just say. My small, small self, my little warm nub. I see your dead body everywhere, flat on cement, spread eagle and pulled to a point where your paws should be. Sometimes waterlogged, and others black matted mud. It's still coming, it's still happening, even when I step over your body and look at the sky. A little moss on the wall, how do I tell him? Every time a man touches, it's better with the promise of worse. I love a man, how do I tell him? My mother tells me I don't seem happy at all. He forgets to lock the door at night, how do I tell him? A sweet mass of something big that presses. Life is amazing, I say when a friend asks. How do I tell him? I'm kneeling on a chair, wobble and sweat. Life is amazing, I repeat, louder, then louder, then louder, then louder, and believe it. Okay, thank you all so much for listening. Again, I hope I see you all again on Saturday for the workshop. And yeah, definitely check out Hot with Bad Things, available on White Whale's site. So thanks again.
Hey everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you, Kara. Thank you, Lucia. Thanks for being here. Anything else from the Pretty Owl crew or our readers?
I just wanted to say real quick, thank you to everyone. If you don't know, I'm Kelly. I'm the editor-in-chief. And also thank you to Hannah, who is our current editorial intern with the Journal and whose last day is tomorrow. So this is like her last big hurrah of like doing something for the Journal, and really appreciate all the work that she has done for us so far. That's all I want to say.
It was an absolute joy, and I'm so glad that we got to plan this reading and still have it even with quarantine. All the readings were wonderful.
Yeah, y'all were awesome. All right, we hope to see you all very soon. We hope to collab with Pretty Owl Poetry many times over and over again in the future. And have a great night.